live, and hopefully we will just go live.
Because we're professionals.
Yes, I think we froze there as well.
I think we did. I'm just going to see if we're live.
Nice. So it says we're live. I hope everybody can hear us. So I was trying to click the go live button, and LastPass came up and said, "Do you want to remember this password?" Over the live button. I'm like, I can't click go live.
The answer is no, because it's not the password.
Ah, dear.
Oh, wait, is there sound?
I hope there's sound. I can see my audio bouncing. I can see Jan bouncing. And his audio.
Hello, everybody. How is everyone today? We're a bit frazzled because both of us are a bit sleepy before the stream. And then we met a few minutes before the stream, and Mikey had this moment. All of my settings are gone. It won't do anything. Where's OBS crashing? So we had a Windows moment.
Yeah, but hence no bottom banner today. I'm like, it's not even where it was on my computer.
It's gone.
I opened up Firefox, and Jan's face became Firefox. I'm like, that's not right. That's not working as it should be.
Don't give away my superhero identity.
Oh dear. Well, hopefully the stream will work. I've had a funny bit of pausing every now and again, but I think that's settling out now.
That you or the stream?
I just don't know anymore. It's all a bit... Ooh. Anyway, good evening and welcome. Thank you, Big Gamey. You can see and hear us both. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Probably is. It's all good.
Yeah, well, we could always get some sort of CGI for us. Mike, your lip sync is slightly off. Yeah, you gotta learn the lyrics better.
How are you?
No. You are not going to hurt my poor brain.
I could try. Yeah, I can actually see my... You know what? I would love to play with it, but I know something will go horribly wrong. I think half my trouble comes from I moved my computer the other day to get at something, so unplugged some stuff and then plugged it back in, and I obviously didn't put things in the right USB ports. So, oh, you've got a new set of speakers. Oh, you've got a new webcam. You've got... It's not Police Academy. I grew up loving those.
I did too, although I don't think they aged very well.
They did not age at all well. They're definitely not funny these days. Also, not as...
I mean, Blazing Saddles was tough to watch 5 years ago. Like when I was a kid, it was really funny. And then having spent a few more decades in the world, I'm like, actually, this really hasn't aged well. You know, the other one that hasn't, I used to love when I was a teenager. Well, in my early 20s. Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah.
Ooh, what was I thinking?
You probably weren't. Good evening, Roderick. How are you?
Hello, Roderick.
I'll take a breath next time before talking.
You should. I'm going to make myself a little bit less dingy and dark. Mikey, how are you? What you been doing?
I've been good. Easter happened, didn't it? And well, my kids aren't here for half the week, but when they are here, we had an Easter egg hunt on Thursday, which was awesome. Then the weekend happened, and that was very busy. It just went really, really quickly. I've been playing with a lot, and so Paul, who's been I've been working with for about the last 2 months or so, he's putting together the grease pencil parts of the new Blender suite.
Looking really good as well. I saw his test video.
Really it's looking absolutely fantastic, and I am hoping, not promising, but hoping within the next 2 weeks we'll be able to go for launch. So watch this space. We'll announce it.
Hello, sweet animal. I'm sorry. Animaciones. Now, that sounds Italian. If it was French, it'd be better. Hi! Dude, Where's My Car was cheesy when it was released. It was always cheesy. But you watch it now, and it's just painful. Like, the humor has not aged well.
Would I be right in saying the same is true of things like Ace Ventura? It was hilarious at the time, but...
There's a lot of gender-based humor in Dude, Where's My Car that now makes me quite uncomfortable. That did when I was in my 20s. And I think that's probably because I've spent more time around people with an X chromosome. It's like, after a while, like, oh, that actually must not be a fun experience to go through every day of your adult life.
Do you mean girls, Jan? I can't remember which way around it is.
But yeah, the grease pencil content is looking really good. I just saw the one. I guess it was a video test, as in we're testing the quality of the video, but really good delivery.
Yeah, so for our lifetime backers, you will have lifetime members. You will have access to that once we've sorted out links and stuff. At the moment, I think the course is still a bit broken. All the skeletons there, the meat is on the skeletons, but there's no ligaments controlling it. I don't know. Let's not stretch that analogy too far. But yeah, the course has come together really well. We just need to make sure all the links off to resources and things like that are there so you can pick them up.
Very nice. I've gone too low, haven't I?
That's okay, Jan. I can match you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jessica. It's more I'm not who I was in my 20s. But we could talk about more game-related things. So the Grease Festival content's looking good. I think we'll probably have more news about that next week.
Yeah, definitely.
From what I can gather, and I'm saying from what I can gather because Mike takes point on the Blender stuff, as you almost certainly know.
Yeah.
So I get to hear the stories in the background. Meanwhile, I've been doing more work on the Godot stuff.
Yep.
Now that all the stuff we have for discovering Godot is edited and out there, I still have to tweak a couple of videos and go back and redo some stuff. I've gone back to Canopy Cars, but that means 2.5 weeks of not recording Canopy Cars content. I had to relearn all the script because I haven't looked at it for a while, and it's commented okay, but I still have to go back and think. It's not like looking at a full script and thinking, oh, that's how that works. It's looking at a full script and then trying to go back in time in your mind and say, what did this look like when it wasn't quite there?
I've had that plenty of times with modeling as well, especially if you're switching between projects. Suddenly you go back and you're like, was I adding detail? Where was I? So I try and leave myself breadcrumbs, even when, there's a little text editor that's very underused in Blender. So I always make a few notes in there as we go forward.
Even though there was one.
Yeah, there's a text editor. It's where you write the code if you want to just run a script.
Huh.
But it's also great for just saying, well, this is what I've been doing and, where I need to pick up next time.
There's green screen stuff there. I'm sorry. It's all messy. Only Mikey can... You're going to see it when I do this.
Yeah.
So
you were fine until you moved.
It's a swivel chair. The other thing I've been playing with this week is I've been playing with some of the plugins that Godot has because I haven't really... So because of the way we...
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Because of the way we do our courses, we don't tend to touch plugins because they're not part of the main engine. And so they've always felt a little bit out of scope. But Mikey's been pointing out they're not really out of scope. Like we could play with them a bit. So I don't know if
we certainly do it a lot in Blender because Blender actually comes with a lot of add-ons already built in, just not turned on. So we're talking about here with Godot actually downloading a separate add-on and basically enabling it.
I mean, with a lot of the plugins you can get in the asset library or on GitHub, they're in alpha or they're in beta, or you're not sure how. You have to spend quite a lot of time with it to even know is it worth using in a wide variety of cases. They tend to be quite specific use cases, like a water shader. But I've been playing with 3 very well supported and very impressive ones: Scatter, H-Terrain Map, or H-Terrain, and Waterways. All of which are really cool. And I posted a little tiny video of one. But do you want to... Oh, hello. I've got a cat.
Uh-oh.
Excuse me, cat. But I kind of want to show what we've been seeing, just because we don't know if this is a course yet, or part of a course, or an optional part of a course, but it's kind of cool. Do bear in mind, when I do this, as everyone knows, Godot can't do 3D.
It's a real shame it can't do 3D.
It's something that everyone says. But if I just share my screen.
I'm going to make sure that people can see your screen. Hold on a moment. There we go.
Okay, so here's the little test character that Mikey gave me last week. Very basic thing. My controls are a little confusing because I've bound them to the world rather than the character. But what we have here is a very simple scene. There are 1, 2, 3, 6 meshes in this scene, apart from this little rock. So 7 meshes in this scene. and they're being instanced. Well, God does instancing anyway. But what's impressive here is that all this grass, all these rocks, all these flowers are multi-mesh instances, which means you can have thousands of them. In fact, if you look at the grass and the flowers, there are currently 35,000 instances on screen. And I'm running at a smooth 60 frames a second. There's no collision. I've got 5 trees, which are also being instanced in, and they have collision. We have 3 separate rock textures, and they're looking like that. Now, all of this is like, okay, that's cool. What's nice about this, and I can show you this in Engine, if I just switch over to my scatter. What's nice about this is if I go into my test scene and show you what's happening, I'm just going to hide these collisions that I put on the side of the wall so it doesn't run off. If I look at, for example,
into the abyss.
Yeah. If I look at, let's say, this pathway I've made, right? The pathway is actually a series of Bezier curves. So if it's on Collider, let's put it on plane. If I grab one of these and move it, it'll automatically change where all the grass goes, where all the flowers goes, where all the rocks go. And because of the way it's set up, it knows the width of the pass, how much room to give it. So it's not just a case of telling the multi-mesh, okay, put this here. It's here are the shapes I want you to follow. Here are the rules I want you to follow. So I'll go to the main scatter node. And it's just distribute 5,000 instances of grass, 5,000 instances of flowers. Don't do this path that I've called pathway with a width of 2 meters. You're allowed to rotate all the grass and change the scale by these values. And they go into the trees, for example, and they have their own rules. And those rules are, you've got your own path you must follow. You're not instancing, so I want you to bring in the scene, not the multi-mesh, bring in the collision. And we can keep going. And there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with that. The other one I've been playing with here is I said, okay, let's take that and add in these other 2 plugins. So to do that one, I need to go to where did I put you? H-Terrain Test. Handily called Spatial because I'm a professional.
Oh, water.
Yeah. Now, 3 things going on here. First, we have this H-Terrain. This is a height map terrain, right? We can paint this. In fact, I did paint this. I brought in 2 textures. Basic smoothing, and there's some brushes up here. So if I want to, I can go like bibbity, 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 bibbity. It's not bibbity enough. Bibbity, 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 bibbity. I don't want to do that, but if I want to, I can. It generates the collision, etc. Then, so this is all like, it'll work with rigid bodies. Then we have the scatter going on. Scatter is being slow because this is a much bigger scene. But if I come down here.
And just to be clear, though, when you say it's slow, do you mean it's slow, or do you mean it's slow to compute because of the size of the scene? However, once it's done, it's nice and smooth.
Not even the size of the scene. It's whenever I change this curve that delineates what the area of the scatter is, I need to get this bake interval right. I haven't yet played with it. I started the scene this morning, and then had to go do some teaching and came back to it. So I've not tweaked it. In Editor, making changes can be slow. The other fun thing about this is this water system. So we have water system here, and we have river here, and it's got its own curve. So I set the width of the water. I set the direction of the flow. I tell it how strong it is, what the textures are, how much foam there's supposed to be, what color the foam is. There's presets I can use for water or for lava, or I can make my own custom ones.
The floor is lava.
And then I can put in this water system. And the water system is good because if I take this rigid body here, and I haven't yet made this work properly, but the theory is if I take this rigid body and then I run this scene, which I will have to do over, oops, wrong button, no.
Okay, you're back, yep.
And I'm in the wrong scene, so let me just change window to this one. Nope, that went wrong. One more time with feeling. Sorry. Everything's fine. Okay, so there's this little rigid body coming in here, which is set to buoyant, but I haven't yet figured out the parameters, so it's just very slowly sinking. But what it says right it'll just flow down with the water. So
Oh,
what we have
nice.
here is a fully 3D scene with collision and everything else. Textures are nicely done. This is a very low detailed texture that I've put in for both the grass and the dirt. These are the grass assets that come with the plugin. It's just a simple shader moving the mesh around the place. But we have a very simple, very pretty 3D world. And we have a lot of potential to make these lovely little scenes. And I'm not sure if this is a course, something like how to make a pretty open level, if it's part of a game, or if it's just some things that we do a quick YouTube video about, or if it's just something that I play with and go, those are cool, and then get on with my real job.
So, question about the curves then. On the previous scene, it might be the best place to show it. But with that path that's flowing around, or with the river indeed, can you have more than one path going? Can you
Yep.
branch off and have a little river coming in from the side?
Okay, so with the river one, what I've actually got is the river is wide enough that it's just covering everything.
Yeah.
And it knows that there's collision here, so it will actually calculate the flow around the collision.
Yeah.
And we can really see that if I bring the phone back up. With the test scene, I can draw as many paths as I like. The trees have all vanished here, so this is a good example to show you with the trees. Let's bring in the trees. I'm just going to rebuild. Now, the trees have their own pathway set to no trees, so they know don't place trees along the path.
Yeah.
But if I get rid of that, we'll start getting them there as well. And I could say we need more trees. Now, I need to be a little bit careful with how many trees I put in, because these are not multi-meshes. These have collision with the rest of it. So if I'm silly, they will slow the game down a bit. However, here's 100.
Now you've got a forest scene.
Now I've got a forest scene. However, I can't walk through this. So I've still got my pathway here. That's fine. So I'm just going to add a modifier. I'm going to say exclude a long path and tell it the name of the path I've got in.
That's nice. So you can build that up as a series of layers, essentially.
It's nodes is what it is. And then when I come back in here, in our little scene, beautiful open grassway. Grassway? Yeah, that's a word. A beautiful open grass scene is going to have a small problem that I've just spotted. Hello, tree.
Oh, it's like one of those interactive adventures from the days gone by.
It very much like the original Alone in the Dark, but all the collisions are here, right? So you can actually make a full system like this. This probably isn't very efficient to do like at runtime. There is an option to do this at runtime. Like if you wanted to, you could make a level editor that the player can use.
Oh, nice.
I don't know that's the most efficient way of doing it. But if you want to make lots of very detailed levels or a really good level very quickly, it can do a surprising amount of things. If I show you the demo level that the plugin comes with, I keep forgetting the word plugin. Let's switch back to this window. And I will go to Bibbidi Bobbidi Bibbidi. Where's my Bibbidies? It's probably under add-ons because that's where the add-ons live.
Test scene, or is that yours?
That's right here. Scatter, demos. Let's go to showcase. So everything in here works on these principles. So this fence, for example, is just a simple scatter along a curve. And they've put in this path made of pebbles. There's just one pebble here, and it's being transformed randomly and scattered along certain rules. And then here, there's a point saying, oh, by the way, the fence one, don't put a fence where this point is. So if I find that point, I can bibbidi, 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 and it just calculates it. Like, it's a really modular way of building a level. I'm very impressed with it. That's awesome. You'll also notice that because this little test level thing they've got, if I just hide the grass, has collision, it can be set project along the floor. And it'll say, okay, how far down do I look at the floor? And what's my maximum height? Okay, here you go. It's spread on the floor. Do you want me to follow the normals? Great, it's done. It's a really interesting system. So I'm curious to see what people think. I almost hung up instead of closing my stream there.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, Godot is 4D. You're absolutely right, Melicon.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the powerful things about add-ons, and good ones at that. They extend the functionality so well, whether or not it's Blender, Godot, or another program. But being able to do both a vanilla course and maybe one that actually incorporates, I mean, hopefully free add-ons for the moment. And there are certain add-ons, of course, that will be paid for, and they're
Well, there are
unlikely
with
to be.
Blender already.
Oh yeah, there are lots with Blender already. Is it worth covering them? Maybe in the future. Something like Hard Ops is a very popular add-on. And there are loads of others. There's a Scatter add-on and there's Grass Worlds as well for Blender. Both of them are absolutely fantastic. And again, maybe just a quick tutorial on how to use them, or maybe something more fully fledged. So it's not just how to use the tool, but how to use it creatively, how to get the most from it.
I guess I'm not quite at the stage where I know what we're going to do with this yet, because I tend to build courses around a game.
Yes, and at the
Like
moment,
Discovering Godot is a series of games that will lead you from very basic word game to third-person shooter, quite complex, right? At the moment, this is a fun tool to play with, which is how Mag Racer started. It's how Godot Getaway started. It's how Canopy Cars started. I'm just playing with the tools. Suddenly, there's a game there.
So all of a sudden, we've got an open world RPG by the looks of it.
Don't even joke about it. If you want to make an open world RPG, you make it.
Oh, because you imagine just the asset creation for it. Man.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. It's okay. You can write the procedural asset code. Actually, there is a plugin that allows you to make procedural assets by the guy who did Scatter.
Yeah.
Which is also very good. So it's all node driven. So you'll say, okay, this polygon goes to here. It can lead to these things. Here are its attributes. Make me some trees.
Wow. That's awesome. It just is awesome. Having all of these tools available to us. I mean, I remember it was quite a few years ago. I think it was with Unity. I was playing with the terrain brush. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I played with Unreal's ability to do similar sort of thing. But again, you're manually painting. Where when I saw you move that curve, and I was like, oh, it's all linked together. That's such...
It's a series of rules.
Yeah, that is so powerful.
So what I've done with the grass mesh is a simple mesh made of 3 curves with a texture on it and a shader that will wobble it with the wind.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll just tell it, okay, I want you to distribute this randomly. And here are the rules. You need to project to the floor. You need to make this many of them, and you're allowed to transform it this much. So you can have this much variance and scale. We can rotate on this axis. But we can use it to make anything. We can use it to make a bridge or a road. I mean, at one point I had it make an actual pathway with cobblestones.
Oh, that's neat. And I presume you can have layers and layers and layers up to some sort of limit. And yeah, Roderick says feature request for Godot 4.
It's actually just going to be a node, and you press autocomplete, and it'll just make your MMORPG.
If you got the rule set right, you could probably do that.
Bastian, if you're watching this, you can make that node for us. We'll do the course. What's interesting about the scatter thing is because it can do instant scenes that can have their own scripts, you can actually do this to put in NPCs. You can do this to put in buildings. You can, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this. It's probably not the most performant, but if you want to make a bunch of different levels, or you want to make a large level, or you just want to get the details right and see how you can tweak them, it's really nice. Especially when you throw in the water as well. And the height terrain thing is very good. I've not played with it much, but you could also do it with handmade assets.
No, I do like the fact that it's almost a sandbox tool where you can say, okay, I can come back later and maybe add much more detail to this level. But if I'm from a world building point of view, this is absolutely brilliant because it enables you to almost block out a world, but with more detail than you would do normally when it comes to blocking out.
For a level editor, it's amazing. I mean, there's probably all kinds of other great use cases you could do with it. But we were talking with Andrew, I forgot his name for a minute, this week about procedural generation in game design. This is a great example of that. Like, you've set up the rules of what your level should look like. You could tweak it. You don't need to put all those little details in.
No.
And Chris on our Discord pointed out that he actually did this for his version of Canopy Cars, and it just made putting the vegetation out so much quicker. You can do it manually, of course you can, but you don't need to.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing things manually when it really does matter. But me placing down a blade of grass doesn't sound fun, even in patches as instances.
Especially when you're not on a flat plane.
Yeah. That to me sounds like a lot of work without a lot of benefits. Whereas having something generated getting you 80% of the way there, and you can very quickly, if you're just looking at your scene as a whole, go, no, this doesn't flow, or perhaps
tweak some parameters. I mean, the grass scene I've got it putting down grass and flowers, and I've just told it 85% of it is grass, 25% is flowers. You know, I look at the scene, it's too crowded. I'll just cut the amount of things from 7,500 to 5,000.
Yeah, totally. And if we had a set of maybe, let's say, 10 different meshes that would be in there, suddenly you've got a lot of variety, and you probably don't need much more.
Biomes, you could have little areas of like wildflowers. You could, I mean, it's you know, there's a lot you can do with it. I suspect there's a course on there somewhere, but I don't think I have the idea yet. Like, I don't have a game in play. I'd probably like to make a game that is compelling and fun to play and of a scope reasonable for a course, and then use the plugin as either a section of it or an option in it.
Part of me seeing like a not a hide and seek game, but like a find the treasure game, maybe like a click adventure. Maybe
it
not
might be
quite
the assets we're using, but I'm seeing like a very small RPG or a little combat thing.
A micro RPG. Oh yeah, the MMORPG stands for Minnie Mouse's
Mikey's micro roleplay.
Yes, it's not massive; it's micro.
It's micro role-playing game.
Awesome. Now, I mean, there's a lot that could be learnt in a smaller environment, because it's very easy, not only as us as teachers, to get carried away and end up with a lot of scope creep, but also as a student, you can get very excited. And having constraints always, for me personally, it helps with creativity, because you're staying focused within a certain set of rules.
We have this. Oh, it's when we were making the assets, wasn't it? We were having choice paralysis. Like, should it be this or this or this, or how many styles do we do? And eventually, it's like, well, we don't have time. Here's your constraints. And suddenly, Mike was like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah. One of the best moments when I had this realization myself was it was about 5 years ago. I recently bought a sound pack, and you know, if you just, this was an instrument pack, but even if it was just a sound pack, you can imagine 10,000 sounds. You go, oh, I'll check them out. Before you know it, the whole working day is gone, and all you've done is just play like a couple of notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days.
You've just played a couple of notes and you haven't created anything, because you just, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think being aware of the fact that if you've got too much choice, you can end up doing nothing.
It's something I cover in the creativity course I used to have out, which I'm actually remastering for Canopy right now. I don't have to keep that quiet anymore. It's not so much about restrictions, it's about scaffolding. If you have so many choices, it's really hard to make one. If you have two choices, it's a lot simpler. The example I give in that course is if I say to you, write a song. That's a huge thing, right? That's going to be like an hour of like, even then you were like, oh, I'll do this now. I could see your face.
Yeah.
But if I say, write a song about your favorite food to a children's song that you know, that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Mikey, make up a song about your favorite food to a children's song.
No.
But you get the idea.
Not right now. However, behind the scenes, you've just given me a great thing to procrastinate with.
Oh, good. I thought for a horrible minute it was going to be a course. Mikey's made up song. Just
Mikey's alphabeti spaghetti.
$78. Listen to Mikey singing Alphabeti Spaghetti.
Hey, if someone's into it.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that would be. I mean, I still have to. I'm still going to finish off Canopy Cars and do the last few video tweaks for Godot Getaway, and I want to finish remastering the creativity course because it's a really good course. Like I was looking back at some of the footage, and that guy knows what he's talking about. If I do say so myself, like it was pretty good. But it'd be nice to make a 3D game that isn't a racing game. Or we could make it a racing game.
We could not. Well, I'm giving you some scaffolding, not a racer.
I mean, we could use like Games from Scratch a couple of weeks back wrote this Godot recipe for a really simple plane controller. And it's not, realistic simulation, but it looks like a lot of fun. And it might be a good sort of game to be a little bird or a fly, or even just hang glide around the place.
You could call it Pollinate. Or not.
Bees tend to be like all over the place.
You could add a random noise to the control system.
Drunken Bee Simulator.
Well, if you switch it to first person mode, it might be Vomit Comet. That would be particularly horrible.
I mean, there's also the possibility of a 3D puzzle game. Because you and I have had a lot of fun in Human Fall Flat. And just moving things around in that kind of 3D world, like putting some inverse kinematics, could be very interesting. Yeah,
but puzzle games, I think, are very few and far between these days. So I think it's something that can help with creativity, and also the fact that a puzzle game has a definite solution, so you know when you've got it right.
Although my favorite are ones that have like 2 or 3 possible solutions.
Yeah, a couple of routes, so you can climb up this way, or you can swing across, or you can put someone in a cannon and go fire.
So that's a possibility, but I don't know. I think it's the low poly nature of the assets and the fact that it's very early summer kind of lighting I've put in that scene.
Yeah,
kind of makes me want to do that kind of game. But honestly, there's nothing saying you couldn't use this system to make the interior of a space station.
Okay. Well, I suppose if you're able to lay down fence posts along a course, you're only a couple of rules along from actually just populating an entire scene. Because there's nothing to say that scatter has to be random. It could be on a grid.
There's on a grid. There's along a path.
Oh, nice. I was just guessing it could be on a grid.
No, those are rules you can drop in there.
Nice. And I presume you can scale the grid to different sizes, so you can do.
You can give it offsets as well.
I was going to say like a fractal pattern where you've got one.
I mean,
one
we could
section
do a quick experiment at the moment, but I don't know how exciting that's going to be for all of our.
Well, I'm excited. You show me, and
okay, and you.
It could be like a reaction video.
Why have I got this open?
I don't know. Probably should shut it before sharing your screen, though.
Get a test. Believe me, I'm desperately deleting everything off my desktop right now. There's Discord. Okay, where's Godot? Here's Godot. All right, let's share my engine.
There we go. Let's have a play.
Okay, so brand new scene, and let's make a. Oops, no. There we go. A mesh instance, and I'm going to make this a box. Where's box? In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to make it a plane. Yes. And let's make this 40 by 40. And that's just going to be our thing. And this is a terrible material, so let's just make that spatial. There it is. Just so it's not so bright.
Nice.
And so we can see what we're doing. Let's do a directional light, because the default environment for Godot lights everything with the sky with no ambient, so everything looks very, very blue. Want it looking blue, so let's just...
That's a common issue, isn't it, for newcomers to Godot? Why is everything blue?
So let's start with, I'm going to make a basic CSG mesh. You know what? I'm not. I'm going to make a CSG mesh combiner.
Ooh.
Oh, no, it has to be a mesh instance. Never mind. It has to be a mesh instance. So I'm going to make a mesh instance, and I'm going to call this fence. Now, ordinarily, I'd do this as a scene and instance it in, but you can do it this way. And this is just going to be a very basic box, which is cube mesh, and that's going to have an X of 1, a Y of 1.5, and a Z of 0.1. There we go. There's our little fence, and it wants to come up a bit.
Nice.
And you know what? That needs to be a bit wider, doesn't it? So let's do that. There's our fence. Great. So Mr. Fence is going to live over here. Okay. Let's go to orthographic. Come out of orthographic because I pressed the wrong button, and go back into orthographic.
This is
the
for
Godot
drawing
equivalent.
the curve.
Yeah, this is the Godot equivalent of deleting the cube and adding the cube. All right, back into spatial, and I'm going to add my imported scatter add-on. Boop. And the first thing I need to do is say, what's the region we can draw in? Because it doesn't have to be the whole level. So I'm just going to make this nice and easy. There's my scatter. And I'm just going to make sure that that's actually on there. Yeah, great.
So what about height, or is it only projected on a 2D surface?
Nope, height is actually taken into account.
Nice.
You can absolutely move these, but I've got it locked to plane specifically to stop it going the wrong direction. Okay, now right now this has no collider, so we could fix that. Let's say our floor is going to have a child, let's say static body, and that's going to need a...
So I'm just laughing at Eroteric. He's like, why is everything blue? Dabba dee dabba die.
All right, fine.
Made me
World,
laugh.
environment, new environment.
I know that doesn't take much. It's not a high bar to hit, but it made me laugh.
Doesn't at all. Procedural sky, ambient light here, sky contribution down there. There, everything's red. Okay, great. So we have this scatter, right? And within it, I'm going to put a scatter item. Okay, so scatter item says, but I don't know where you are. Well, I've got a thing on my local path, and I can just say, can you go get my fence, please?
Nice.
We have a bunch of fences. Great. But right now, if I go back to my scatter, I've got distribute inside. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want distribute along path even.
Nice.
You see that path I drew earlier? Oh, I don't want the transforms. Let's get rid of the transforms. That path I drew earlier is what our fence is. So if I go over here and I say align to path, and I need to change this, don't I? So let's make that 3 by 0.1.
So how's it deciding how many instances to put along the path? Is that just the number of instances, or is there a different way of changing it? Oh, just the interval.
So if I say the interval is 5.
Is that 5 units?
Oh, not A5. It's 5 counts. So 3, because of the width of it, it's 1, 2, 3 next, and they're almost perfectly aligned. But 4, they're too much. I can also put in an offset. And it's going to move them once along. So here we have a nice little boundary fence. And because of the way we've done it,
you can play with it to your heart's content.
And these are Bezier curves.
Oh man, that's so useful.
Isn't that nice? Like, we're talking about, okay, so maybe we want a sci-fi thing. Here's a little railing, right? Just done. And because of the way it's curves and the way it can be made to just snap to colliders, it'll work fine. We also have project on floor. Because this is looking for colliders, I should be able to. These are too low. Oh, wait, why are you so low? No. Let's just check this is working. Yeah, I
Is
always
it?
have a problem with this one.
Is it the origins?
Might be, actually. I mean, there's a easy way to fix this, to be honest. We just take this and move it up by 1. And then rebuild. Oh, no. I moved it up by 1, but that's where it's intersecting. Yeah, so the model is not taken into account. So the origin is in the center, not the floor. So it's putting the origin where it wants to be. That's exactly what it is. But already we have this lovely little system. And then we say, okay, so I want another scatter item. But this one isn't going to follow the same rules. So I'm going to put in a scatter as a subchild. And in that, I'm going to put a scatter item. And just because I have it, let's go to nature, new grass, boop. And where are you? New grass. Oh, this needs to be a separate thing. Because that is a long path and that is not. Okay, that's fine. Let's just move you out here. And move you up here. Oh, you're going to draw a thing. You're going to go bibbity, 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 bibbity.
I think I can see it already there. It's a wee bit fuzzy.
Do you want it a bit stronger?
There we go.
So
I thought making a lawn was difficult.
Right, and here's a Bezier curve just to make it a bit prettier. So now when we look at it, it looks a bit more thing. It's also, because of the way the scatter is done, it's told that you can randomize the offset. So it's sometimes going slightly outside. Maybe we don't want that. Maybe we say, when you randomize these, keep the position at 0. You must be within this line. Or we could say, now you can be well outside.
Oh, wow. This is so...
I mean...
so versatile.
Yeah, we can put in an exclusion path. So let's say, let's put in a scatter exclude path. And I'm just going to go back to my orthographic view. If I press the right button and draw that. We're going to go bip, 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 bip. Great. And I'm going to go back to my scatter. And say, oh, could you please exclude along the path? And that path is called, let's rename this, Bob.
Poor Bob.
Who made you the king of Bob?
And then you can change the width. And of course, you can have something else follow that path, like pebbles or whatever.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Which is what I do in this scene. If we look at this scene, this path, I'm telling you, exclude this pathway, but the pathway itself is a new scatter node with its own set of rules. And it's got 3 sets of rocks and some transformation rules, and it's just going to put them in there. And let's make this a little easier to see.
That's awesome.
Although it looks like we're following the path of rabbit poo. So yeah, it's make
them a bit smaller because those are some big rabbits.
We can have them smaller if you want. Or even like look at the flowers. Like 5% of this lawn or of this grass is flowers. Maybe we want 50%. Like so easy to tweak it. Once you've got the rule set up, it's so fast. Like it's a really impressive little system.
I'm loving it. I need to crack open Scatter and Grass World in Blender now.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've used them, but they were phenomenal the last time I checked, and they've had a lot of updates recently as well.
Yeah, I stopped sharing, by the way. I don't know if that helps.
I'm not sure. I can hear you. I can see you.
Yeah, but on Discord, No, okay, because there's a 30-second delay from what I can see.
Yeah. But my end, I'd locked up for a moment. Little panicked.
So I'm thinking there's probably a course in that, and I don't want it to just be pretty little corner.
I mean, it's got so much more potential than that. You know, you can very easily make a forest scene, scatter rocks, bugs, and other. But once you've scattered a couple of things, you're then really talking about the artistry of putting together a forest scene or or
Well,
a
you can also have it interacting with the waterway system.
yeah.
Like with a clever grass shader, I suspect there would also be a way of having the grass distort when the player walks through it. I don't know about player and other things. I don't know enough about shaders to really know how easy that is. But I've seen shader effects that distort grass when a player moves through them. And
Or
that just makes the
bushes and
game
things
feel
like
more
that.
alive.
Yeah.
Exactly. The wind shader that's in there, like the tree I'm using is a very simple Quaternius tree, the one we use in Canopy cars. So it's just ISO, circle, blob on top of extruded thing, right? It's just,
Yeah.
here's a free tree you can use. Here's a low poly tree. But you could do something stunning, because if you're using mesh instance as opposed to mesh, or multi-mesh as opposed to mesh, and you don't want collision, you can make it look stunning. If you want collision, you have to be a little bit more careful with it, but you can just put a simple collision as opposed to a tri-mesh. And I mean, we have 100 trees in that little scene, and it's fine.
There'll be a more challenging way to put in a load of like fake cylinders wherever a tree is placed, but you'd have to, I suppose, extend scatter for that to work.
So scatter has a thing called exclusion. I was trying to get it to work where it will take the tree as an exclusion point, but currently it's not doing that. But yes, if you have a single tree, you could say over here, don't put any grass for a meter, or 10 meters, or whatever it is.
That'd be epic. No, I like that. I love seeing things like this that have so much potential.
So do you want to know the very first thing I did? Was I took the buildings from Mag Racer.
Oh.
And I made a 2-kilometer thing, and I drew a single curve around it with a default 10 centimeter update. And then I said, scatter them, and my computer went, ah!
That's a lot of polys.
It's not so much the polys, it's the curve, the detail on the curve.
Oh,
because the beauty of this system is if I put in 7 buildings, that's 7 meshes. It's not 700,000 meshes, it's 7 meshes.
Yeah.
So the actual like impact on the computer is minimal. And then you put in a grid distribution with some various rules, and you draw a path as an exclusion, and that's your track.
Mm.
Get some nice effects.
So when's this course going to be out? Yeah.
I don't know what the course is. What should the course be, guys? What kind of game are we making with this?
Yes, I mean, you've seen what
it's been playing with.
Really just the tip of the iceberg. And I should imagine a course like this, anything you'd go through the how to get an add-on installed, and there'll be a bit of setup.
There's actually 2 different things here, because the scatter add-on is not, last I checked, on the official asset library. You have to go to the GitHub,
right?
Which means there's a couple of different steps you have to do. With the waterways one and the height terrain one, they're just plug and play.
Nice. Well, there's a lot to be learnt there then, because if you're used to using ones that were plug and play, having something more challenging to set up is, well, it's frustrating for a newcomer. If you're used to a certain
like picnic DLC.
I like it.
I do too, actually. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, and actually just getting in the asset you gave me today and having that walk around changes that from just a little like fun thing to, oh, this feels like I'm doing something. This feels like a game.
It's a world you can walk around in because you are literally controlling the avatar.
I mean, it feels less like that for everyone else, but I can't help that. Until Mikey gets me a whole bunch of assets and we get the course out. Sorry.
I see where this is going. I'll just let Karine know I'm not going to be sleeping for the next month.
You know what it reminds me of? When I first started working on the Godot course, way back when, like 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
And I was just playing the game that eventually became Heistmeisters. I got that top-down pack, and I invented a game that was a little top-down racing game.
Oh no!
But the twist was you were all racing through this like city area to get to the donut, but you couldn't slow down. You had no direct control over your speed. There were boosts, and if you bumped into things, you'd bounce off them, but you couldn't slow down. It was a strangely frustrating experience.
So a bit like Speed, where if you the accelerator is jammed.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, I
Although,
like that.
having driven in New Jersey, no one drives under 50 miles an hour anyway, so I'm not sure why anyone noticed.
Yeah, I can see so much potential with that. So we've got an adventure game, we've got food fight picnic DLC,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously if we carry on with our vision for these assets and asset packs, this is going to really open up a world of creativity for people.
I think so. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. I mean, it's not the ideal solution for everything. Like in theory, you could use this with a bunch of grid tiles and make a little maze. But
Yeah.
honestly, you use a grid map. Like it's there. It's much easier. But within that grid map, if you want to start putting rubble around the place,
I mean, it takes some of the frustration out of having to do that type of work in the first place. If, as I was alluding to earlier, if you can get that 80% of the way there, and then just tidy the rest up later on.
I mean, one of the problems you get with, especially as an indie developer, with trying to make a lot of varied levels, is you start reusing the assets and they start becoming very, very obvious. So, for instance, just now when I said, if you're doing a dungeon or a cavern or whatever it is, and put rubble down, right? The traditional way would be, I'll make a cavern scene that has rubble, and that's the cavern scene. So either I keep reusing it and you just see the same rubble and your brain codes, that's the rubble. That bit probably has a secret. Or we can, in each one, just draw a curve and then bring those rules in.
Well, that's the problem of repeating patterns. Our brains are so good at recognizing patterns. That's what they do. So yeah, being able to randomize things like that helps no end with just breaking the illusion of it being the same all the time.
Especially things like forests are so hard to do manually because you have to tweak and rotate each tree. And my trick of doing them in clumps is fine until you look too closely when some of the trees start intersecting.
Yeah, I've had that a lot, and it as you say, it's fine. If you zoomed out of the way or it's background material, you do one tree, add another, duplicate those two, rotate them, scale them slightly differently. But it's not, and again, it's the same tree. So eventually, if you've got enough of them, you start seeing a pattern.
I mean, in a lot of cases, people don't mind too much, but if you want that sense of this feels like a great way of creating an organic world. Like that little scene feels very organic, right? The grass feels real. Partly it's that lovely grass shader, that wind shader they've got in there that does this.
Yep. The wibble.
The wibble, but just the stones on that pathway. I mean, when I made them black, they're a little too easy to see, but we could tweak them and all the size. But with just 3 rocks, you can get a huge amount of variance. Stepping stones across a river. You make a flat stone, and you say you're allowed to change the rotation, and you're allowed to change the dimensions on these 2 axes, and suddenly they look realistic, and they'll follow the path, and you can say how far apart they are.
That is, I'm really looking forward to this.
I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's a great tool. I really recommend people playing with it. Play with scatter, play with H-terrain. Play with waterways. I've only just started playing with that, but it's a lot of fun. Although H-terrain makes quite large levels, and I don't know, maybe this is better for little self-contained scenes.
It'd be interesting to see how far it can be stretched, how much of a world you can create with it. But also, obviously, you need to think about optimization. You wouldn't necessarily have a complete open world or a very large world all loaded in at the same time. There would be some sort of
well, you remember that
optimization
scene I showed you with the waterway?
Yeah.
There's grass all over that. You can only see it very close because of the way the LED is being handled.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you start having to play with the way things are working in quite a lot of detail to get that big thing. But maybe a series like the old school RPGs, we get one screen and you move to the next.
Yeah, that would work.
I guess you could do something fancy with chunk loading. I really don't want to do chunk loading.
Never sounded nice to me. I was just thinking, if you zoomed out and it's not loaded in the grass texture because it's just too far away, but the ground is brown underneath the grass, you suddenly get this great big hue shift. So you're not just getting the asset popping in, you're getting a complete color change as well.
Yep.
So that has to be mitigated somehow.
And there's LOD settings in there I've not really played with. I mean, Godot has an LOD controller, it just doesn't do anything. Fell asleep on the couch before the stream started. I need to rewatch on YouTube. Oh, don't go into the garden. Shall we show Obo? Shall we show Obo?
Yes.
Okay. Obo.
And anybody else who happens to just join us late, of course.
Okay. All the people that just came in.
That's definitely the one bit gaming. Home. Let me share.
Wait. No.
I
need to rebuild the trees for some reason. Give me 1 second.
Switching over.
Stop it.
You're now full screen. The pressure is on.
There we go. Okay. The camera was stuck in a tree, so it was jittering and making me feel sick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because, here we have
that's got an old school vibe about it.
Just putting in the extra flowers. Remember, we changed the flowers from 5% to 50%. Here we have a lovely multi-mesh scene using 2 flower meshes, 3 rock meshes, and a tree. We've got 5,000 instances of grass and flowers. We've got 50 instances of tree maximum. We've got a path cut through them, along which are 3 rocks. So I'm running at a smooth 60 frames a second because I haven't done anything to remove the cap. And it works just fine.
That's awesome.
Bonk. Collision. From there, and I'm just going to change. Boop. We can go to terrain data. Nope. Nature. H-terrain tests. Spatial.
So were you saying earlier with the water, if you put an object that has collision on it, it should form foam on the side opposite the flow or with the flow?
Yes, in fact. Let's just go over here. Great. So, right now I've got the foam turned right down because with this bright light, it's kind of irritating. What we have here, we have this little Godot thing with buoyancy attached to it. We have water and we have H-terrain. H-terrain is a lovely little system. I'm not using it very well at the moment. I just have 2 textures.
Yeah.
But we can very quickly just edit that. Like I have this set very, very low right now.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I don't know what the resolution cap on it is, but obviously you can download Google Map data of real areas.
Sure.
That would be pretty... well, I'm excited by that.
Okay, so I've just changed this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the global collider for the editor. So the editor knows it's different. Now the river is saying, you've changed this. Please redo your river. So it's like, okay, can you generate your flow and foam map?
Generates a map and uses that accordingly. Nice.
I could also put a physics body in here. So let's put in a static body. Which is, where are you? No, not as a child of river. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to put in a static body, and I'm just going to get this a mesh, and you are going CSG mesh. No. I'm going to give this a mesh instance.
There we go.
And let's say you are, I don't know, a pyramid. And you are 10 by 10. There we go. Okay. So we've got refraction. We've got everything else. I'm going to give this collision. Great. So now when I go to the river and I regenerate this, it'll now calculate the flow. Now at the moment, we can't see any foam because I've got the foam way down. But if I turn it back up, The foam is a little bit stronger along here because of the lighting I've got in here. It's a little hard to see. But what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, there's more foam along the edges.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is quite hard to see from here. So I'm just going to turn that right down.
Crank the flow up. I want to see a faster river.
Okay.
Now it looks treacherous.
Yeah. Rapids.
That's quite.
I can also boop.
Oh, okay. Is that by moving the curve in 3D space, actually just lifting it up?
Yeah, it's calculated the flow from there. Now, this is now too wide, not the rest of it. But if I look into here...
It's a tsunami at the moment.
Yep. This will actually work, but... Oh, yep, too low. We're now under the water, but look, we have little trees under here.
You know what? That's a I like how the shader's actually distorting. That's better than some games I've seen with their water.
It's a really nice plugin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to undo a couple of times if it'll let me. Nope, won't do. Okay, great. Let's just move you back down. And that should calm down the flow a bit.
So it responds to that height as well in terms of...
Mm-hmm. Well, the bit I was going to show you is it will calculate the foam, but the level isn't really designed with that in mind.
You need a waterfall.
What I should do is I should go to... Hang on, I need to regenerate the river. What I should do is go to scatter and see if I can change the LOD a bit. Scatter's going slow because the curve is so big with such a poorly done bake interval. I need to make sure I don't untick disable instancing because there are 25,000 instances of grass here. And I need to make sure that the LOD is off.
What do we want? More instances. Where do we want it?
Not sure what the LOD is. Oh, LOD doesn't actually do anything. Got it. Never mind. But yeah, because of the way this is set up, if I just zoom along here, it knows to follow here, and I've told it follow the normal of the terrain.
Nice.
So I feel like there's a course here somewhere.
Is it under that?
Remember I gave that collision?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I gave it collision, and Scatter's going, okay, well, I'm looking for anything with collision. Oh, here's some collision.
Blonk. You've got grass growing on the top of a sunken cube. That's awesome.
But this was the basics of this was a very quick couple of minutes because the H terrain was one of these. You can paint them, you don't have to.
Or you can just grab a real world height map of your favorite location.
Yep. Here we go. Boop, 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 boop. Let's go a little bit less high. But anyway, you get the idea, right? You can make all kinds of things or just start from scratch and paint it manually.
So I don't know whether you'll be able to answer this question. Is H terrain taking in an image, or can it take in code as well for its height map?
This one generates and takes in an image specifically, I believe. But if that was too powerful, let's go a little less powerful, shall we? If I just raise some of this, and that should probably be dirt. So just make a little dirt out. And it's ugly, so I should probably smooth it.
It's fine. It's like 720p.
Right. But here's the important bit, right? Go to scatter. For the curve to update. Press rebuild once. It gets rid of everything. Press it again. And it completely fails to go on top of the bit I just drew, which is what I intended. And the reason for that is it doesn't know to update the collision in editor. So let's just pretend that I remembered to press this button.
We could do, but where's the fun in that?
La 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 la. I just, by the way, just grabbed. There we go.
Nice. I take it with the scatter add-on, you could also say anything above a certain height doesn't get grass on it.
Easily.
So you can really start creating diverse biomes.
Mm-hmm. Just like that, in fact.
That is awesome.
Not bad, right? And this is just with 2 textures, 1K textures. Like, I just went to CC0 and grabbed the first grass and the first thing I could find. I can also, in H terrain, enable triplanar somewhere.
Yes, Daz, that's what I was getting to, by the way, when I was asking about plugging in your own code, because obviously if you could create a terrain generator by combining noise at different octaves and different strengths.
I mean, you could just put noise in, but that's essentially what the terrain generator is. This
yes.
you know. Oh, we had shadows. Yeah, I've just enabled triplanar.
Now it's slightly prettier.
As you
shouldn't get quite as much.
So
shouldn't get quite as much stretching if you got
Yeah.
triplanar turned on.
We're on these big vertical bits anyway.
Yeah.
This is one ugly little island. Anyway, I think there's a lot of potential here.
Coming soon. Switch back across. Yeah, my OBS
Trout simulator.
My OBS's performance is poor.
So the bit that we didn't show you, Daz, is with the original thing with the grass and the trees and that path. That's all done with Bezier curves. So I can just drag the path to a new position, and everything, the vegetation, the trees, the pebbles, will just adapt to it.
That's pretty. It is just pretty.
It's pretty.
Needs some pink flowers, I think.
I think it needs some actual, like, 3D flowers.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm giving myself a job here.
Dice spawn repeat. We could call it respawn.
Womp womp.
Thank you. I'm here all week.
Love it. Okay, so we've been going about an hour now, and we like keeping things nice and tight when it comes to time. So It'll be a great. We've actually covered quite a bit, but have you guys got any questions? Be good to know. Whether it's about this, whether it's about Blender. I'm open to other questions. Hopefully about stuff we generally do.
Yeah. Try not to keep it too personal. It does work with a height map. In fact, it detects where the floor is and just adapts, which I think is lovely. So you can have a path going up a hill.
Mm. And I presume because you've got that tick box about the normals, the pebbles won't just stick into the hill. They will start being placed.
You can have them. Exactly. Well, thank you, Big Gaming. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I think there's something there. It needs the right assets. Because right now, a lot of that flavor is coming from the lighting and the assets we've got, right? Lots of bright green colors, a very white, slight tinge of blue ambient light to give it the shadow, and a slightly yellow sunlight feel with lots of bright green everywhere. Like it's a very spring, late summer or early summer kind of day.
It kind of felt a bit Zelda-esque, I suppose, with its colors.
And the wibbly wobbly grass.
Maybe
that's why I keep going with the. Maybe that's why I'm going with the RPG idea.
Local, contained, find a guard, ask a quest, go pick up the bowl and give it to the child for breakfast. Done. Oh dear, that's questing. We've just generated a questing system as well.
I mean, I would say something close to Stardew Valley, but I really don't want to get into updating that curve in code and planting crops. Like, no, thank you.
That doesn't sound as exciting as what else we've
Have you not played Stardew Valley?
I have. I ran around lots.
Yes, that's the game.
I played it for maybe about 10, 12 hours worth of play, and I was like, oh, I found the dungeon. So, there was about that much content to just keep me engaged. And then I was like, well, at the moment, it just seems like I've got to go to town, come back again, grow crops.
It's very peaceful. It's weird that I enjoy playing it when I live in a small country town. I played the multiplayer version with Sam and Rachel, which ended up with a big fight of, Jan, will you stop hitting on the woman I'm trying to marry? Like, I can't help it. She likes my gifts better than yours. You're looking at the wiki. I'm a better person. I'm doing research. You're just giving her any old crap. I'm finding out what she likes. Jan!
Oh, I managed to play that game you recommended, Streets of Rogue. Very, very interesting game. I think in my head, I thought there was more possibilities than there actually is. But I did like playing... What did I do? I unlocked the gorilla, which was a lot of fun. Me go smash up the place.
But you can't buy anything.
And then I unlocked a character, and this was the last time I played, but I unlocked a character called the Jock, which is... And like the secondary attack is just... You kind of run, and then you just go through everything. I'm like, this is totally overpowered.
I've not even tried that. I like the vampire, and I like the hacker. The hacker's a lot of fun because you hide around a corner and you hack someone's fridge, and you set run, and their fridge will run through all the walls. And now you have an entrance.
How did the fridge gain legs? Doesn't matter.
But don't you know the? Excuse me, is your refrigerator running? You should go catch it.
What? Lovely. Dad says, or just wandering exploration like The Last Tree. I've not played The Last Tree.
We could do a little wandering game. I feel like a cute little mechanic. On the little video I did that I shared on the Discord and on Facebook, I went and grabbed a CC0 little tune, and it just made it feel like a thing. Assets matter. Like, they could be low poly, but they matter.
They do. Awesome. Well,
I'd love to see how that works in God of 4 with
the lighting.
Particles. The lighting and the collision particles.
You could even have the mist of the morning. A Jew.
Rain.
Right, no.
Rain bouncing off things.
No.
Squid.
Squid. Rain.
Arthritis.
Rain coming down, changing, making the ground more reflective.
Hate you so much right now. Captain Scope Creep over here.
Sir, reporting for duty. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this week. Been a lot of fun.
Thank you, everybody.
And
we hoping to get some more news about the next Blender course next week.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
We'll know what's going on then.
Yep.
Basically. Also, watch out for the low poly modeling part of the course as well. That'll be available again to lifetime members soon.
And we are still working on that asset pack thing we talked about. Mikey's had to focus a lot more on these two new Blender courses coming out, but it's still very much on the cards.
We'll get there.
And thank you for coming. We had a lovely time. Thank you for the jelly and the ice cream.
Did you eat all the jelly and ice cream, Jan?
I ate a lot of ginger stem cake just before we went live because Mikey told me we're going live in 2 minutes. Like,
I don't have any ginger cake.
Do I ate it?
This is true. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you this time next week.
Bye.